Opening day of the baseball season, also a doubleheader here on the Voice of College Football with Miami Hurricanes Talk, and we got Cam Underwood on the line from State of the U. Cam, how are we doing today? I know you're a big baseball fan.
Huge baseball fan. I love baseball, and got to talk with someone who works for the Marlins today. They were trying to get me to leave the secret day job to go down there. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do that, but eventually I'm going to get to a game because I love baseball. Like, if you've been following me on Underwood Sports, like my Twitter account, like I've been playing a franchise in the MLB, the show game, the same Detroit Tigers franchise for 5 iterations of this game. I've only like 7 seasons in the future because I play AA, AAA, Major League games. I do the scouting, drafting, developing. I love baseball. So today is a holiday for me. I mean, unfortunately, I didn't take it off or wasn't able to take it off, but opening day is a special, special day for me, and I love it.
I can't really explain this, and this is not the place to do it anyway, but over the last couple of years, I have lost interest in baseball, and I can't really explain it because I would have been arguably the biggest baseball fan that you would have known 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 25 years ago. If somebody would have said San Diego Padres, I would have said, here they are, 1 through 25. That's the roster, stats. Right. I just had it all locked and loaded, and it's just kind of drifted away from me. Still today, I didn't even know it was open. Like, I used to be able to say, just like I'm sure you do, oh, it's 43 days till opening day, or it's 42 opening. It was all just in the first day of spring training was one of my favorite days. Baby, all that, yes, P's and C's, all of that. I did not know it was opening day until about 2:00 this afternoon. Oh, wow. I can't explain it. I saw it on social media, and then I flipped it on. I watched your Tigers beat the Indians. I didn't really watch it. I saw Miguel Cabrera hit a home run. And for as big of an Ohio State football fan as I am, the Indians have been probably nearer and dearer to my heart since I was 8 years old than any sports team. So I can't explain it.
Hey, you might not have known it was, until opening day, till today, but I will tell you this, my friends, and I know that you're watching Miami Hurricanes live. It's 156 days until September 4th when Miami takes on Alabama. So there you go. All
right. Let's talk Canes past, present, and future. And we can start with the future. Yeah. Meaning, no. I'm getting my chronology of it mixed up. Meaning past Canes, future pros. We'll go to Pro Day just this past Monday, and it's been a bit of a different setup, of course, with the pandemic. No NFL Combine, but we've seen all the major schools on display and some amazing displays of athleticism by players across the country. So, of course, Greg Russo and Jalen Phillips were the specimens on display. First and foremost, Quincy Roche, of course, will play in the league as well. Your thoughts about their performances on Pro Day?
I thought everybody did really well. I thought everybody made themselves some money, to be perfectly honest. You had Gregory Russo doing a workout, for the first time in front of, a collection of people, because he opted out this past season. He had family members who, were in the medical field, nursing and things like that, associated with COVID for their profession. So he decided to step back, with that being the case. But I mean, if you look at him and you saw him on Pro Day, man, he measured in at 6'6" and 5/8 and 200 and almost 70 something pounds. And like, this is a kid who was 6'5", 193 pounds when he got to Miami, played safety and wide receiver in high school. And everybody was like, bro, he's going to keep growing. Cause like I said, he's almost 6'7". And he's going to keep growing up, and then we're going to put muscle on him, put his hand in the dirt, and make him a defensive lineman. And he's damn good. So he got back out there and really showed his variety of skills. I know that there are some people saying, okay, he's not just a number one defensive right end who's going to just beat the left tackle from any opposing team around the corner every single time. But while that's not his only or best skill set, or his trait, on the field. I mean, you want to say, oh, well, he was only able to twist inside and get pressure against guards and centers. So he's a guy who can get pressure in multiple ways. not just one way. And okay, going inside is more effective for him, or was when he was on the field as a redshirt freshman, than going around the outside of a left tackle per se. But, you know, there are things there with Gregory Rousseau that still make him a first-round draft pick. I'm sorry. Like, they don't make a lot of dudes like that at damn near 6'7", 270 pounds or something, you know, and he's still young too. You know, he's only, 21, I want to say. So he still, you know, has time to mature into his body, bro. Like, you know, he made himself some money. Quincy Roche had an awesome Senior Bowl week. He had an awesome workout yesterday. On Monday. That continues to make him some money. And Jalen Phillips just lit the field on fire. This is a kid who, I mean, you know, I know people are thinking, oh, you know, hey, I hope that my favorite team in the late teens or 20s are able to. It's not going to happen, bro. I've seen his mock drafts. You know, my guy JP, you know, he, like yourself, is from Ohio, so he's a Browns fan. And he's like, yeah, you know, I hope that the Browns get. Nope. He's not lasting until 26. So if you want to pair him with Myles Garrett, like, yeah, right, yeah, at the defensive end slot, that means you gotta elevate. You're gonna have to use some draft capital or some whatever to get higher up, because he's not going to be at 26 like in these mock drafts anymore. I mean, he's running in the mid 4.5s. You know, he's a guy who's 6'5", 268. You know, explosive long jump. You know, vertical leap. I tweeted something out, and then Jake Marcus, our guy at State of the U, used it in his recap. There's a guy who does like metrics and movement evaluations. It's called the RAS. You can look into it or whatever. But for anybody who goes into the league, it's like, okay, this player ranked insert number out of however many have been at this position since you started doing metric evaluations for athleticism over the course of 20-something years, right? So Jalen Phillips, out of all the defensive ends who have been evaluated in terms of their movement mechanics and explosive metrics over the course of the history of this guy doing this, ranks third in terms of athleticism. As in 1, 2, 3, there are only 2 other prospects in terms of their athletic traits who had higher grade scores since this guy's been doing it over 20 years than Jalen Phillips. That's the kind of workout that he put up. So you're talking top, definitely 20. 15, possible. 10 might have seemed a little bit optimistic before. Now, top 10 is firmly in play for Jalen Phillips. Then you have N'Kosi Perry going out there and being able to throw passes to help out and everything. So he's the one who's throwing passes to Brevin Jordan. Brevin Jordan, again, he's just showcasing his skill set. No, he's not the tallest tight end in the world, so I don't think that he's going to be one of the first 2 tight ends taken. I think he's going to have better careers than these other guys, though, fortunately for him and unfortunately for those other gentlemen. But 6'2.5", 250, he can really move. And again, you can put him H-back, fullback, in line, in the slot, outside. You can put him in so many different places, and he's a nightmare mismatch, for opposing guys. Chigozie Naruka came back and worked out with everybody. It's good to see him. Hopefully he's able to catch on maybe a non-roster invitee or something like that. Well, that was a baseball term. A practice squad type player for a team. And then, they didn't show it on the ACC network. Not that I would have seen it because I was getting vaccinated that day, but whatever. They did not show Jose Borregales' kicking during the show on ACC Network. But again, it was reported that he did very, very well. And they were, many front office person who came down because you have, 2 first-round draft pick defensive ends. You have another guy who's probably going to be top 75 in Quincy Roche. You have another top 75 type player in Brevin Jordan, even though it's on the other side of the ball. Jose Borregales is probably going to get picked. I mean, you could even make a case for day 2 in that round 4. But I mean, if you have any questions about your kicking situation, pick this kid. And me, as a Detroit Lions fan, having let Matt Prater go somewhere else, look, man, Allen Park, it's a great facility over there. There's great areas in and around the city of Detroit where you can live. There's a big Hispanic population. There's a nice little Mexican town, Corktown area where you can commiserate with some people, other Latinx people in the Detroit metro area, if that's something that you desire, Jose. But, maybe a little Royal Oak, maybe a little Birmingham, if you want to go that way, St. Clair Shores, if you're feeling that. But yeah, I mean, I would like my team to take Jose Borregales with the kicking situation in flux. And if you're a football fan, you would want yours too.
I don't have firsthand knowledge of this. I've only been in Detroit once in my life. I believe, maybe twice. Twice. The city doesn't have the best reputation these days, or for the past few decades. But I don't.
I would say my lifetime, but it's even longer than that. You can go back to the race riots of the '60s, and the white flight of the '60s and '70s, with everybody moving into the out to the suburbs, and the infrastructure failings because of the lack of tax dollars in the city and everything. I could wax poetic for a long time about the history of the city of Detroit. You're right.
Good spots and bad spots in every major American city. 904 Hurricane. Cam, if Miami beats Alabama, okay, maybe we should have capitalized if. Anyway, Miami beats Alabama, has a good season. How much do you think that can help recruiting? How much do you think that could keep some of the high school talent at home instead of Alabama, meaning going there?
Right. I think the question, or the answer's in the question there. Like, if you beat Alabama, that's proof positive that what you're building is working. And, you're not going to play them every year, obviously, but like, that's the one. Miami used that Russell Athletic Bowl trophy to go and recruit guys like Navon Donaldson, who's still on this roster, and other players. You're going to tell me that you beat Nick Saban in Alabama in the opener, and that's not going to have a positive impact in your recruiting? It's asinine. You definitely would. How big? It depends on what you do behind that. You know what I mean? It's just you can't have a 1 step forward, 4 steps back kind of thing where you lose to Appalachian State or Michigan State or whomever else afterwards. You know what I mean? Like, you got to, I'm just going to stop before I continue. I don't think that's going to happen. Plain point blank period. I don't. However, going with the hypothetical that's presented to me, if Miami were to beat Alabama and then continue moving, there's no reasonable way, continue moving through the season positively with wins, there's no reasonable way to assume that this would not have a positive impact on recruiting. I mean, think about it. Like I said, after Ja'Cory Brown committed, said we have one guy committed because Brandon Cleveland, the defensive tackle who had been committed, was getting processed out of this class. That processing happened this past week or a couple of days ago when Brandon Cleveland decommitted finally. If you go back and watch these videos, last couple of weeks, even after Ja'Cory Brown, or before Ja'Cory Brown committed, I said we're about to have one guy in the class, that one guy being Ja'Cory Brown. It was not unknown or unforeseen that Brandon Cleveland was getting processed out. That's fine. But you have a 4-star blue chip quarterback, and then you're going to beat Alabama and assume moving forward that that's not going, both of those things are not going to have a positive impact. It absolutely will. Now, in terms of getting certain guys to stay as opposed to going to Alabama, number one, we got some of that last year with James Williams and Leonard Taylor, and there were some other 4-star guys who had been considering them. And maybe it's a time for another update because to the Miami versus Alabama recruiting piece that I wrote like maybe 5 or 6 years ago, where if Miami, the players of which Miami and Alabama actually went heads up for, it was almost 50-50. It was like 55-45 in favor of Alabama, but it was closer than you think. The other part of that, which I wrote in that piece before you start going crazy on me, is there's a whole list of guys, elite guys, who Alabama got, who Miami couldn't even get a phone call back from, couldn't even get them to pick up the phone. You know what I mean? So of those who were close, it was close. But there's a whole nother list of dudes who wouldn't even consider Miami and went to Alabama, okay? So maybe it's time for me to update that piece. So we're still doing okay against Alabama of the guys that we are connected to or communicating with. But again, there's other dudes who we just don't have the access to. You know what I mean? Like, no, it's just, if you want, we're ordering off the menu at McDonald's, but there's like, Capitol Grill and Ruth's Chris and Joe Stone Crab and all these places. It's just like, yeah, they're not going to take your reservation. They're not doing, to go at home or anything. No. You can stick with McDonald's, maybe get some Boston Market. That's where we're going to be. And hey, that's fine. That's good. It's nutrition. You get it. It'll work. But there's a whole nother class of restaurant. There's a whole nother class of player that we're not going to be able to get because they're not looking at us right now. Going back again, you beat Alabama, maybe that starts to change. Okay. So, I think that, in that hypothetical, if you beat Alabama, that could get, again, of the guys in South Florida that Miami wants, maybe, again, you're adding to that number. there's still going to be guys who go away. Tiao Jones-Bell from Carroll City, 4-star recruit. Was he at the top of the list for Miami? Not necessarily. Was he good enough because he's very fast to go to Alabama? He might be a year 2, year 3 guy. Absolutely. Funny story. I taught his younger brother the 1 year that I taught elementary school. And he has a very similarly, starts with a T, but it's an interestingly spelled name. And I was just like, your brother goes to Carroll City and plays football. He was like, my elementary music teacher knows this. And I was like, yeah, but I'm not your normal elementary music teacher or whatever. But, hey, so those, you're going to have some guys who do get away. You're not going to get everybody. But again, instead of getting 2 out of 10, maybe we can push that to 4 or 5 out of 10. That could be the positive impact of beating Alabama, of a continuing through a season with 0 or 1 losses. If that hypothetical situation, which was asked by a viewer, were to come to fruition. But again, I mean myself personally, do not think that we're going to lead off the season with the win. So part of that question, I think, is moot on its face. Maybe if you pivot it into my realm of reality of what I think is going to happen, how does Miami look against Alabama? How competitive is that game? And spin that forward more than the tangible final result of winning that game, which, again, I hope for and rooting for and see a path to doing. It is just a very tough road forward to make that happen, I believe.
Me thinking that Miami has little chance to beat Alabama says much less, in my estimation, about Miami and says more about Alabama just being airtight, taking care of business, making sure that they're prepared for a big game on a national stage for week 1. And it speaks more to their greatness and where the program is and how Saban has everything covered and ready to go for, again, a big opponent on a big stage than it does to me saying, well, Miami doesn't have a chance. Because you can put that same, to me, you can put almost every other team in America in Miami's place. And so to me, it says less about Miami not being prepared or ready for that game than it does Alabama's speak to their greatness and where they are as a program right now. At the same time, if I look across America and I put Miami on a certain level of team, I believe that they have a better chance because of their athleticism than just about the teams on their level. Like if you take Iowa and Miami are similar quality teams, or we would expect them to be 9-3 kind of teams, top 15 teams, but Miami's just a different team. They're just different athletes than what we have at Iowa. And therefore, most likely would have a better chance because if the game goes a certain way, they've got those kind of athletes to match up in certain spots.
No, that's fair.
You're also obviously speaking in volume. We're speaking generalities because we can't get into the hearts and minds of each individual to say, because some guys just pick a school for a number of different reasons than other guys, and their commitment's more solid. And Miami could go 6-6, and they're one of the top 3 at their position in the country, but they're still going to Miami regardless.
Duke Johnson. It wasn't great that year, but like there was nowhere else in America that Duke Johnson was going to. It didn't matter. You know what I mean? The whole campus of Coral Gables could have burned down. We could have been using, tents and, just sleeping under the stars. And he was still coming to it's like one of those things, and there's other guys who, have all the opportunity in the world. It's tailor-made for them. Teddy Bridgewater, what's his face? Lamar Jackson. Although I know Lamar Jackson was lower on the pecking order because he thought maybe he was a project and maybe thought he was going to go to wide receiver, things like that. I get it. But even still, like the opportunity was here for both of those guys. Miami did go after both of those guys, although it was a late run at Lamar Jackson. But we've seen teams take late runs at guys and then they end up coming and things like that. They decided to go elsewhere. You got guys from, the Miami. I mean, I know Lamar Jackson's from Deerfield and he went up to Boynton Beach. Yeah, I know that. Or Pompano, whatever. But yeah, you're going to have some guys who just want to be there and you're going to have that, but you're also going to have some guys who want to get away as well, which again, it's not about getting everybody. It's about getting your fair share. And again, if you're looking at the top 10 in Dade and Broward, your elite guys down here. Last year we got, 3, I want to say. You want to push that up. You want to get that of the top 10. You want to get 5, maybe 6 of those guys. And I know that everybody's going to come in here and they're going to, Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, everybody's going to come down here because everybody knows that this is where you're going to get talent. So you have to get your share of that talent. And again, you want to pick from the top of that list and not just get, guys 7 through 10, which is really great. And I know there's a lot of teams that would love to get the, number 7 through 10 of the top 10 best players here in South Florida. There's a lot of teams that would love that. I would love that. But I would also love it if of those 4 that we're going to get, 4 or more, I would like to get a couple more from the top of that list. That's what you're looking to get.
Somebody would have to do an exhaustive study to determine how much winning or losing that particular recruiting cycle of a season has to do with keeping those commits. There would have to be an exhaustive study made.
I mean, yeah, there is that. Bud Elliott has his South Florida scorecard, where he looks at the top 25 players in the state of Florida on the 247 rankings, not including out-of-state guys at IMG Academy. And everybody misses that. Guys who are out-of-state dudes who go to IMG often go back to where their home area actually is. Okay. There's a very small group that do not do that. Okay. So, yeah, the IMG guys, I'm so sorry about that. They're going to go wherever home is. They're going to go back there pretty much. So they don't count. You have that and things like that. But, you also have outside factors like a new coach recruiting bump. So their first full cycle as a new head coach at a program, that's going to bump you up. And hopefully for them, they're going to bump down here and get a couple guys and things like that. So there are overlapping concerns that would be, taken to that. So it's a multivariable equation for sure. I might leave that to somebody else who's watching. So if you're watching, you want to take that and do all the research and everything, call me for an interview so I can give you some color commentary towards that. But I don't know that I want to be the one who does that data disaggregation.
Well, I've said before on here, Cam, I want somebody to take on re-ranking the classes. So I want them to take every season's class and then, this 2-star that turned into an all-conference player and re-rank and that would take forever. I would like to have that done. And then, so speaking to this topic, take the recruiting rankings or take the commitment list on the day before opening day of that particular football season and chart it versus what were the results and how many of those commitments held. And if a expected 500 team went 10-2, did that jump their ranking versus, and even that's not scientific even. Right.
And the thing about it is also, you see things like I know that Mark Ennis and Justin Hatfield hate when I bring this one up, but what Louisville did to Matt Colburn some years ago, who had been committed for a year or more, and 2 days before National Signing Day, they pulled his offer for someone else. Colburn ended up going to Wake Forest, had a very nice career there and things like that. But this is a kid who was dead set to be an early enrollee at Louisville, didn't take other visits, didn't really talk to other coaches. Nah, I'm good. I want to be a Cardinal. I want to go here. But then they pivoted. And sometimes you're going to have that if you have a 10-2 season and that, kid who's a little over your pay grade starts paying attention. And then that local kid who's a great story, but you're just like, you're that 5'10" receiver who's good and, quick and everything. But the 6'2" kid who's a little tall, or, he's 6'2", he's made some highlight catches, and he's much faster. He's a blue chip guy locally, not the 3-star developmental guy. He starts listening. And so we're going to keep talking. That means that 3-star kid might get processed, so there's that as well. There's just a lot with it. There's just a lot.
Ronan, thank you so much for the super chat. Let's see what you got here for us. From the face of FCS football to the face of the CIA. We all know what your secret day job is. I got it, Cam. Okay. I was like, what? I'll read on. Okay. Yeah. Support Mark on Patreon. Thank you for that, Ronan. Again, you can join us on Patreon. Exclusive live streams, which we will have one next weekend, and watch parties and so forth and so on there. Insider look at the voice of college football, my picks and so forth. Don't forget to hit the like. Keep up the great work, guys. Go Canes. Ronan, thank you so much for that. Appreciate that. So, pro days in the books.
Yep.
And there was a scrimmage last weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Based on the stats, the video, the information that came out. What are your thoughts there?
The scrimmage was the Saturday before pro day. There was it seemed like there's some good things, and Miami's a private school, and I love it because I only went to private schools my entire life. Shout out to my mom for paying all that tuition my entire life. Well, yeah, whatever. But you do get a little bit of state-run media from the University of Miami Athletic Department and everything, which is to say you see a lot of good, but on the flip side of the good, there's the bad, which wasn't necessarily put out there. So, for example, both quarterbacks did very well in the scrimmage. Xavier Restrepo, to Hurricane Logan's question, went off like 9 catches, 144, and 2 touchdowns, or 7 catches, 144, and 2 tutties, and everything, which is great. But who was in coverage? Because if he's doing that, and you see some still pictures of some guys who probably should not be on first-team defense, and he's eating them up for yards and everything, or eating up that space, I should say. That's great, but I want to see that against the ones. Also, as well, if you have interceptions by defensive backs, but none listed for any quarterbacks, that doesn't curl over. Like, if passes were intercepted, passes were thrown to be intercepted. But it was just Tyler Van Dyke had a touchdown, Jay Garcia had a touchdown. And forward we go. And I'm just like, that's the selective editing that you can do in that kind of scenario. Donald Chaney Jr. is running back number 1. You saw the video, the highlight of his long touchdown run. He needs to start. Or if you're gonna give seniority to this, or starter, you're going to start the player by seniority by going with Cam Harris. Fine, do that. The middle and the closer then needs to be Don Chaney Jr. The majority of those reps needs to be him. And Eric Hickson, the running backs coach, was talking about maybe rotating, or sorry, that was Rhett Lashley, excuse me, who was talking about maybe rotating running backs a little bit less to get somebody who can get into a groove more with less rotation of or splitting up the carries. Running back with number 2 on his jersey and number 1 on the depth chart needs to be Donald Chaney Jr. Sorry, he's just a different running back than these other guys. And Jalen Knighton, I think, is the lightning to Chaney's thunder. So he is the real one, is the change of pace back. And then Cam Harris, look, I'm not going to say he shouldn't play. He should play here. He has a role here and everything. He can play in this offense. But if I'm dividing up the reps, I'm sorry. Chaney's going to get a lot. Harris would probably be my number 2. Your third down back and special kind of that third one in would be Jalen Knighton. You got Cody Brown, who's a horse, coming in later. You got Thad Franklin coming in, we got 2 massive running backs coming in. Both these guys are 6'1" or 6 foot, 230, 35 pounds. Both of those guys, Brown and Franklin. I mean, look, I love that physicality and everything. They're not the fastest guys in the world, but you're going to have that. But yeah, I think that Donald Chaney Jr. just keeps continuing to separate himself in terms of talent, potential, which is still limitless, and production on the field at the number 1 running back slot. Mike Harley keeps doing numbers at wide receiver. It's great. Tyler Van Dyke and Jay Garcia, like I said, they're really starting to step up and take advantage of the opportunity that they have in front of them, with Derek King being out for the spring, rehabbing from his knee injury and everything like that. Corey Flagg at linebacker. Avery Huff was flashing. You have guys in the secondary. Bubba Bolden's going to be Bubba Bolden. Tyreek Stevenson's going to be Tyreek Stevenson, which are good things for Miami. Guys like that. But the middle and bottom of the roster, I think, is developing. Really want to see again how the offensive line continues to move forward. But there's a lot to like. But again, I take everything with a grain of salt, just because you still have highly controlled situations. So even if guys are being very successful, like a Restrepo, that's in a very controlled situation where we're really finding out. I think that, speaking of baseball, you remember Mike Hessman? Mike Hessman played for the Toledo Mud Hens, the Detroit Tigers AAA team.
Mhm.
Mike Hessman is the minor leagues, I believe, career home run leader. He's what we call a 4A player. He's the best AAA first baseman. He will hit 30 home runs a year in AAA. But he's not quite good enough to have had a career in the majors. But he was clearly better than most AAA players, but just not good enough. So he was that 4A kind of a guy. We're definitely seeing that Xavier Restrepo is a 4A kind of prospect. He's too good for the minors. I'm not sure about being good enough for the majors, but being in a controlled situation, he's going to dominate against other minor leaguers. So against your second team guys, against your scout team guys, your developing guys, Restrepo is clearly a cut above. Is that enough to really make noise with the first team, up with the big show, with the lights are bright, and everybody's a half step faster, a little bit bigger, stronger, and more intelligent, things like that? That's what I want to see from all these rotation guys who have been making some plays. Can they step up from being a 4A player like Mike Hessman to being a star player like a Mike Trout?
There was a player that on the last day of the Major League Baseball season, way before my time, this was in the early 60s, had like a 4-for-6 day. I believe it was Tom Paciorek, who I believe it was his brother. Anyway, had like a 4-for-6 day and never sniffed the major leagues again. And he retired with a 4-for-6, like a triple, double, some crazy slugging percentage, but he just had the one day, and that was his one day in the big leagues. Not bad.
Right.
Also, when you bring up Donald Chaney, it makes me think to the time the team was coming out of its own end against Pitt, and he had a couple carries in a row. I don't think it was anything special necessarily, but to me, watching the plays live and then watching the replays, I thought, this guy's the best back on the team. Like, he's shredding guys. Guys can't get a hold of his thighs and bring him down. He's just tearing. Like, he didn't have a big hole and he didn't break away from anyone necessarily, but it took guys like 6 yards to get him down. He was just
right. That's the part of the scenario. You know what I mean? Like, that's how all those things go together. It doesn't always have to be a 99-yard up the middle, Bo Jackson, I'm just running away over and through everybody. But yeah, those, you're up by 7. It's late in it's middle of the fourth quarter. You're on your own 2-yard line. I take a play that would have been for 2 yards because I get hit as I step through that hole. That 2-yard gain, I carry guys, that turns into 7. So now it's 2nd and 3. Now I have another inside run. That should be loss of a yard, ends up a gain of 4. Move the sticks. First down. The clock keeps ticking. We keep moving. Those little things change drives. You know what I mean? Because that 2-yard gain is a 2-yard gain. Now you're 2nd and 8. If that -1 is a -1, now you're 3rd and 9. Those things are very, as opposed to, in the scenario I just created, 1st and 10 on the 13-yard line after 2 carries. Those little things make a big difference, and I think that's what Donald Chaney brings to the table. And even if it's only a 7-yard run, then it usually looks different, man. And that's what I'm talking about. Like, it's not just me. I mean, Mark said it. Hey, looks like the best running back on the team. You can go up and down the timeline. There's a lot of guys who see that. And look, again, I love Cam Harris as a person. Interviewed him a few times when he was in high school. You know what I'm talking about? Like, over at Carroll City and everything. I don't dislike the guy. I do think he has a role. It's just as a number 2 running back because Donald Chaney Jr. is different.
Yeah, Cam Harris is a good back. He's
Absolutely.
a quality back.
Yeah. But there's a difference between being a quality back and like a star. And I think, that's that. If you've been watching some of these versus battles, where the two musical groups go up against each other, people are talking about, okay, who wins? There was a line that Bomani Jones said that I love. He's like, okay, cool. I get that you can like who you like, but for me, and I forget which battle it was, he was like, it's hits versus jams. Because you know a hit and you know those things that are on the but you know something, you hear that joint and it jams. And I think that that's the difference between Chaney and Harris. Harris got hits, and there's nothing wrong with hits, and hits are going to be in the rotation. But Donald Chaney jams, bro, and that's different.
Well stated, as usual. Hurricane Logan, thank you so much. Appreciate that. Love you, Cam. Love you, Mark. Cam, how are you feeling about our linebackers this year? And Xavier Restrepo, of course, has been addressed. Do you think De'Aaron King will be ready for Bama?
I think the linebackers can be okay if we play who we need to play, point blank, period. I've talked about it. Playing the wrong guys, playing the less athletic guys who don't have the instincts to make up for their lack of athleticism has not served us well. So if we play who we need to play, I think that we can be good. Corey Flagg, Tyreek Austin Cave, finally it seems like Avery Huff is rounding a corner. You still have Sam Brooks, who all he does is make plays and tackles, even though you don't, really hear much about him. He's a guy with increased athleticism at that position, which is going to be more helpful. So I would really like to see those guys as opposed to seeing Bradley Jennings Jr., again, who's probably a good person, running himself out of the hole over and over and over again, or just missing tackles. I don't want to see that. Please and thank you. In terms of and I talked about Xavier Restrepo already. Boom, done. I want to see, again, if he can go from being a 4A player, like I think he is right now, to being a major league player. In the starting lineup or at the top of the rotation, which I think, hopefully he can, but we'll see. In terms of De'Aaron King, I do think that he's going to be ready for Alabama. Manny Diaz said if he has to play on crutches, he would not miss that game. And he continues to be ahead of the timeline for all of his metrics for evaluation in terms of his rehab coming back from that ACL tear in the bowl game. So all signs point to De'Aaron King being active and everything. We'll see exactly what we do with him. What if there is a leash on him? You know what I mean? If we're like, hey, it's what was that? 2001, my freshman year. Mike Vick rolled his ankle, got rolled up real nasty like a week or two before they played Miami. He didn't start that game. The kid with number 11, I forget his name, did. And then he ended up coming in off of the bench. I kept looking. I was standing in the student section, and I wasn't even really much watching the game because I kept watching that sideline because I was like, number 7 is going to start throwing a ball sometime soon, which means he's coming in. And Miami got up about 14-0, and I started seeing some passes. It was like, Mike Vick's coming in. Mike Vick came in, but Mike Vick wasn't Mike Vick. And I know that Frank Beamer, because he said it afterwards, he said, I told him don't run. I told him, and you could see him wanting to, and then also thinking, damn, first of all, Miami's fast as hell. Shit. Second of all, my body is not in the shape where I could just go and do things, right? So he had that other voice in his head, Mike, get down, Mike, Mike, don't do it. I want to see if De'Aaron King has that same thing for Manny Diaz, which is like, cool. I know normally you would try to weave your magic, but if you feel like this is not a great situation, just go down. This is a marathon, not a sprint, even with this game. So I'm interested to see if there's any kind of restriction or how they call plays and all the kind of things that they would do with him. Because again, De'Aaron King, a big part of his, greatness is his mobility. And if he has that limited, or if you're scared of a few, recurrent, you can get injured at any time. You know what I mean? But if you're a little bit more concerned than you normally would be, we'll see how that impacts how they call the plays and how they run the game and how they manage everything with him on the field.
For some reason, I may be way off. The name Marcus Randall.
No, he was afterwards. It was a white guy, Caucasian gentleman. Because Marcus Randall was number 3.
Okay.
I forget his name.
Dave Meyer. Or Grant Noel.
Grant Noel. That's it. That's it.
I do remember. I remember both those names. Actually, Dave Meyer threw 53 passes that year, and Noel threw 10. But I remember both those guys.
Yeah, but Grant Noel, I think, is the one who started that game in front. And everyone was just like, yeah. And I mean, at least for me, I know a bunch of other guys, even some guys who not work in sports media, who were standing by each other in that game. And I was just like, yeah, like we're gonna wait for Michael Vick. So. Because we want to see that. But again, he was very limited. What they did with him, how they coached him, you could tell that they had instructed him on how to and not to move. I'm interested to see, because I do believe that De'Aaron King is going to play against Alabama if there's a similar scenario regarding play calling and kind of just general game management that's been dictated to him for the interest of the preservation of health.
Yeah, I remember both those names. Lee Suggs scored 28 touchdowns that year. Good golly.
Yeah, he scored a lot.
All right, Falcon ERX. This guy is here all the time. Appreciate that. at all these shows. Cam, when will you sing your football knowledge for us?
Oh, Jesus. I haven't practiced in forever, man. Like, I can hit a note, but like, I'm not in fighting shape, my friend. There was somebody at the secret day job who was trying to give me a church choir directorship or something. And I'm just like, I know that like I've cultivated my voice over the course of a lifetime, but I've not actually practiced singing in that professional kind of a way in a while. Plus the fact, like, I'm more geared towards classical, singing and choral singing as opposed to like kind of pop stuff. So, I mean, I can sing pop stuff and I can hit those notes and make it work, but like, I'm a world-class chorus singer in a group. You know what I mean? Again, not to toot my own horn, but like, and I've done it across the world. So that would be it. But maybe if I were to utilize this piano behind me for something other than scales. Again, if you've been following me on Underwood Sports, there's a storyline on a particular reality show that I detest. And anytime it comes up, I go over and I practice my scales until I hear that it's finished on the TV behind me. So my piano scales are good, but my vocal stuff, I haven't done vocal eases or really, really worked on it in a while. So it would take me a little bit before I would do that.
So there is a possibility at some point that we could get you to take a couple steps back and you could sit down at the piano and
I don't know about all that. I don't know if it's gonna be concert time or anything like that. But I mean, I do. Like, it's literally right there. Like, that was me playing the piano. Those are the keys behind me. But we'll see.
The Rod Farva. This is my kind of question here. Delving back into the past here. Thank you so much, Rod. Appreciate that. Little off topic, Cam. This is the 20th anniversary of the 01 team that we often talk about as possibly the greatest of all time, but also the 30th anniversary team of the 91 team that also split a national championship. When does the 90 excuse me, because I had the screen cut off. Where does the 91 team rank among all the great Miami teams?
That is a great question, and I know that they, are up towards the top because they would have to be, like it's a championship team, so one of the five, that we've had here at the University of Miami, so it has a rarefied place in the storied history. I'm trying to scroll through on stateoftheu.com. Do I not have it? Do we not do that? Maybe that's something we'll have to. No, we did Games We Love a couple of years ago. 3 years ago now. My God, really? Time flies, man. That's craziness. So I know we did the Games We Love, so we picked a lot of those. Did we have any of the 91 team? Let me see. I mean, yeah. We had the 92 versus Penn State. 91 versus Houston, and then of course, come on, the iconic 1991 Cotton Bowl against Texas, 46-3 with 979 million yards, penalty yards. I mean, we had that out there, but it's on the pantheon. If we had a Mount Rushmore for Miami Hurricanes teams, I think the 91 team would be up there. Overall, I mean, I would have to dig into it, but I mean, it has to be on the short list for best teams in the storied history of Miami Hurricanes football. So, yeah, I mean, definitely, obviously, the 2001 team being the best team in the history of college football, that gets the headlines. Everybody sees that. Everybody might not agree with me on that, but I'm not going to debate about that because that's an immutable fact at this point. But the 1991 team, yeah, that's a little bit further back, and that's not one that had, like, the proliferation of television in a national kind of a way. Wasn't used in the same, you know what I mean, like that, and things like that. And some of those stories were definitely well known down here or in the fan base, but not necessarily nationally or internationally, like the 2001 team. So that's maybe why I think that they don't have the name brand value as that year's team as the 01 Canes do. But like I said, yeah, it would have to be on the very, very short list of top teams. And I mean, you're talking at worst, if you take a couple of teams that didn't win championships, even if you wanted to put those teams above the 91 team, I don't think that you can put them in the top 10 any lower than 7th or 8th, if that. and that would be like really low. I would think it'd be that or, closer towards the top for the 91 team, just off the top of my head. Again, obviously having, 5 championship teams, another couple teams who are in that same rarefied kind of air. And I know that people are going to think, because I've heard this conversation, that the 2000 team, what you could even put that up there. Again, that's a non-championship winning team. You have your 88 team that got screwed in Notre Dame. You have all these other, there's other great teams as well. So I would definitely say top 10. I would say 7 at the low, absolute 7 or 8 would be the minimum. The absolute lowest I would drop them. Again, because all things being equal, the 91 team did win a ring. So.
Because anytime you put together lists like this, you do, Cam alluded to this, you have some people that are just stick to the regiment of you won a championship, therefore Miami's won 5 championships, therefore those 5 teams are going to get the first 5 slots because we're going to hold to that they won a championship, then we're going to start to rank after that. Others will just say, no, I'm just looking at that collection of players, that team, and if I judge that 11-2 team to be better than a team that won the national championship, and because I just believe that they were better, right. X, Y, and Z happened. There was an injury, there was a bad call, there was a this or that deprived them, and I just believe that they're better, then they're just going to rank them as they see fit. I'm looking at this 91 team. There's only one significant player in terms of contribution of statistics that I don't remember. This was 1 year before the Gino Torretta Heisman season of 92, threw 20 touchdowns with 8 picks. He had Frank Costa was the backup quarterback. I remember him well. Stephen McGuire, they didn't have a big rushing attack. Stephen McGuire ran for about 600 yards and 9 touchdowns. Their second leading rusher was Martin Patton. I do not remember him at all. Scored 7 touchdowns. Do remember Larry Jones. I remember Donnell Bennett, who didn't contribute much to that team, but he was a pretty decent NFL player. Kevin Williams, Dallas Cowboys.
Number 5, Donnell Bennett. Obviously, he's down here. I don't know if he's still there, but I know he's coaching at Oakland Park and Northeast High School, near to where I used to live. The same school at which Stacy Coley once starred, in case you were wondering.
Lamar Thomas, big-time player. Horace Copeland. Hello. Yep. Defense, he had Ryan McNeil, turned out to be a great NFL player. Darrell Williams, Jesse Armstead, of course, Michael Barrow, great NFL players. The
Bermuda Triangle linebacker, yeah.
Let's see where that was a team that beat Nebraska in the Orange Bowl. It was either the 22-0 game or the 23-3 game. Yeah, I get them mixed up. It's pretty much the same type deal. Let's look real quick. Just want to see how the season played out here. What were the big games? They beat Arkansas on the road 31-3. Oh, I remember this game against Houston on a Thursday night ESPN game. They won that game 40-10. Yes, I remember that one well. David Klingler and company. Yes, 40-10. Houston was way overrated. And they took care of them. They had a game against Oklahoma State, 40-3. Tough game against Penn State. Oh, I remember this one. They beat Penn State at home, 26-20. They were both ranked in the top 10. Yeah, I remember that one well. Game against Arizona on the road. Florida State was a 17-16 game. Of course, a missed kick involved there. Rough one against Boston College to pull it out on the road, 19-14. Yes, the Nebraska game was 22-0 in the Orange Bowl. There you go, the 91 team. All right, good stuff there. We did not hit on, yes, we did hit on the scrimmage from last weekend. Yeah. All right, next up, we've got, no, we already hit that one. The singing request. Chugmo Beer, what you got for us?
Chugmo.
Thank you so much for that. Hello, Mark, Cam. Great show. Content as well. Smash the like button, you family. Cam is Miami building the depth on the offensive line needed for the future. Let's go.
We're working on it. That's the thing. You have guys like Jalen Rivers pushing to start at left guard against Ja'Kai Clark. Ja'Kai Clark, who's also been working at backup center behind Corey Gaynor. I try not to read too much into anything, but I mean, if they're having you work in a second spot, that means they want to see if you're able to do a second thing, because we have a guy who might be better at the thing that you used to do. So backing up 2 spots, adding that to your skill set could be a thing. I could also be reading too much into it, so I don't know. But yeah, again, you bring in 3 guys in the last recruiting class, a center, a guard, and a tackle, all blue chip guys, for the future. Awesome. You have guys who are taking steps forward. Awesome. Again, we're not really hearing anything about the competition at left tackle, which means that Zion Nelson is stepping up to be able to do that. If you're having guys, who are battling in other positions, Navon Donaldson back at right tackle. Right guard. DeLon Scaife moving from guard out to tackle. So now Jared Williams might, if he doesn't start now, he could be your swing tackle who can back up both of them. And he's a 24-year-old, 6-year senior. So, he's been around for a while, and then you have other guys who are stepping up into that rotation as well. So again, if you have 8 or 9 guys at the top who, reasonably could play meaningful snaps, bro, that's way better than things have been in the past. So, you continue to do that. And again, you build going forward, and again, there is only one commitment in this recruiting class right now. Yes, I know and understand. But if you have a better offensive line coach than you have had in the past, which I believe that we do with Garen Justice, you're already seeing the dividends being paid in terms of developing guys and recruiting, because in the last 2 classes, you've gotten guys who are quality dudes, to be performing at Miami. And again, and you're developing along your developmental guys. If you don't remember, 2 years ago, we have Whitney Hughes. Oh, please, Roman. That is incredible hyperbole. Please don't even come. No, I'm not even going to say that sentence, because I would not put my name in the same. No way. Lord Jesus. Whew. It's one of the 3 best voices I've ever heard in my life. I would never. Mariah Carey and Aretha Frank being the other 2. But sheesh, I'm sorry. But yeah, so not this past 2021 class, 2020 class. You remember the name Chris Washington from Nashville? 6'7", 270 pounds, offensive tackle, developmental guy who are 275 pounds, who's going to take 2 or 3 years before he hit the field. This is going into year 2. So you're still on track for having your developmental guy in next season or the year after paying off and being game ready. So not only do you have guys now who are more guys and better at the top of the rotation, the developmental guys you're developing along to then fill in and at least be rotation guys if needed in the future. I do believe that Miami is going in the right direction with offensive line. And again, if we keep seeing all these plays where the running game and scrimmages and practice is doing much better, that happens because the offensive line is opening up the holes and giving them the ability to do that. So is it a complete reworking? No. Did we just draft guys like we're in the NFL and we spent, we traded up and got 5 first-round draft picks, and then we drafted the 5 best offensive linemen in college football to our team? No, we did not. But I believe that we're taking the progressional steps to get the guys who are here better. And then, some guys, unfortunately, are going to fall by the wayside. They're going to process themselves out. I'm not going to call any names, but there's some upperclassmen who don't figure to be in the rotation who might seek shelter elsewhere in the future. But as long as you're bringing in numbers, first of all, because you have to throw numbers at the offensive line program, because you have 5 guys playing insert number of snaps. So you have 800 snaps on offense in a year. That means you need 4,000 snaps of offensive line play. 8 times 5 is 4. Carry 2 zeros, 4,000. So you got there. You know what I mean? But if you have all of that, all those snaps, you're going to have guys who need to take those snaps. So you do need to throw numbers at the problem in terms of every year you need to be getting multiple recruits at that position. We got 3 last year. We got 3 the year before that on the offensive line, and develop them moving forward. So, yeah, it's a slow process, but a small step forward is still a step forward for the offensive line, and I think that that's what we're seeing.
Get a free mask, Miami fans or college football fans. We've got 35 to choose from. Get your free mask at voiceofcollegefootball.com. It's our new site. Please check it out, whether you want a mask or not. But specifically, you want a mask, you get a free mask. Just register for free at voiceofcollegefootball.com. 20% off your first purchase. Cam, another tremendous effort out of you. I will ask you to do one other thing before we close out, because I think it would only be fitting, considering a legend passed away this since the last time we saw you. And I went on live as soon as I heard of the passing of Howard Schnellenberger and paid my respects from a football standpoint because, and I will let you take it from here because I had my say. I did my best to try to depict it as not just the excellence that can't be seen on the win-loss record. It's just the unique aspect of what he accomplished and what he forged. He needed help from others. No man can do it alone, but he was the guy at the forefront that took a program from rubbish to national champion, and that changed everything.
Yeah, I mean, it changed everything. And, rest in peace to Howard Schnellenberger. He's the reason that Miami football continues to exist at this point. The University of Miami, was looking at disbanding the football program when they hired him. So, I mean, and it was like in conversations and meetings. You can go and, can't look it up per se, but you can look up some of the chatter and some of the articles around it and everything. It was a very real possibility that in the late 70s into the 80s, that the Miami Hurricanes football program was going to be disbanded. And you came in and you got this Southern looking dude and, with this, obviously this outsized personality and they grab a voice and everything. And he would just, he had a different view, and sometimes you have to have that goal. He said he had a 5-year plan, and it's tough to see that sometimes, because you have to say, okay, like there's going to be setbacks, but like 5 years from now, this is going to happen. So what I'm doing now informs that. So I'm working with the end in mind and unfalteringly focused on that, and, Bomani Jones, I saw a thing and he said, it's incredible because Howard Schnellenberger really spearheaded through his actions the second great wave of integration in the sport of college football. Because if you look back at some of these teams and things, Black people were not being recruited to certain places. They weren't, it's just a thing. And you can look back at in basketball, the same thing. You had the Texas Western team that won that national championship, with Black players on the floor and, against Kentucky, who never had one. You know what I mean? And it's a similar kind of a thing, with that and, going into the inner cities here in Miami, you're going into Overtown and Opelika and Hialeah. You're going into these places that, some people wouldn't go to. We're talking about, good places and bad places in any city, like with Detroit. Man, there's still times and there's still people who won't go to Overtown. You know what I mean? And he said, no, I'm going to set up shop here. This is going to be the identity of this program. And we're going to use that to move forward and win championships. And Miami did. The only reason that this program exists and the only reason that this program has 5 national championships is 100% the vision and the dedication and hard work of Howard Schnellenberger. And that's not overstating it in any way. That might even be understating it. And I know that there were other people along the ride and you had to have coaches to coach and players to play. But without him leading that charge, it wouldn't have happened 100%. And everybody knows about Miami not necessarily having all the money in the world and has debated things. If it would have went bad for another couple of seasons, I guarantee you that program would have been, this program that we all love and that we're here an hour and more a week talking about would not exist. And it is a shame on the College Football Hall of Fame that they are holding on to this arbitrary standard that a coach has to have a 600 winning percentage. And Howard Schnellenberger has a 583 winning percentage for his career. And that 0.017 winning percentage difference is the sole thing that is keeping him out of the Hall of Fame. Howard Schnellenberger, who built the Miami Hurricanes program, Howard Schnellenberger, who coached the University of Louisville, Howard Schnellenberger, who started in the year 2000 the football program at Florida Atlantic University in Boca Raton. That gentleman who dedicated his life to the pursuit of college football and excellence and greatness in all these ways is not in there because of not winning 2 games. I know that you're thinking to yourself, it's 600. That's 3 out of 5. We should be able to have that standard. If that standard is something that keeps Howard Schnellenberger, of all people, out of the College Football Hall of Fame, then goddamn it, that Hall of Fame does not need to exist. It is invalid on its face every single day that place, a shrine to college football, exists without recognition for the great and wonderful man and coach, team, and program builder that he was. Okay, so you go places, tough jobs, like Miami when he got here, like Louisville when he got there, like FAU, which again is an FBS program that started in 2000 out of nowhere. And you're going to say the fact that you didn't win another 2 to 3 games in your career is enough to keep you and the legacy of your greatness out of the College Football Hall of Fame? I think not. Regardless of whether he's in the College Football Hall of Fame or not, which, like I said, he is not currently. Words do not simply express my gratitude and appreciation for Howard Schnellenberger, the life that he lived and the work that he did at the University of Miami and for college football as a whole. So I, like everyone, was saddened by the news that he had passed away. We wish his memory well and offer condolences to everyone who knew him and loved him as he transitions on. And again, just thank you to Howard Schnellenberger for everything that he did to support and drive the sport and program at my alma mater, which I love.
I hate short-sightedness. So I knew that he was not in the Hall of Fame. I did not look into why. So you just stated it there.
I had not either. I had just always, I think we've written a couple pieces of like, it's time for this, it's time for that. And then I saw somebody who I believe has a vote or who actually looked into it more than just being outraged by it. And I saw that, and it's more outraging to me, but yeah.
Standards need to exist, but they also need to be placed into context. And then you just don't have one standard. You have a number of standards and say, okay, he's not quite at 60%, but he's him aside, that's just ludicrous to have ridiculous standards that are just cut and dry. Like, oh, you won 60% of your games you're in, you won 59.7% of your games even though you did all this.
Right.
That's lunacy.
I agree.
And hopefully they will get that changed, and so he can be recognized. But unfortunately, regardless, he's not going to be recognized at a time that he could have enjoyed his just.
Right. Well, I mean, even posthumously, that would be, a welcome recognition for, again, someone who completely and dynamically changed the face of college football. And again, if you're thinking only singularly about Miami, again, and you can look into it because this is something that you can look into with widespread integration, adding black players to these rosters across America. Think of all of the teams and the number of black players in starring roles, okay, that is different now than it was then. For example, really quickly, look at LSU, okay? LSU did not take black players, even from Louisiana, right? Most of those guys went to Grambling with Eddie Robinson winning all 500 and something of those games. Yeah, they went to Jackson State. They went to Mississippi Valley State. Shout out to Jerry Rice. They went to all these HBCUs and things because that was their path forward, because these bigger schools and everything, they did not have integrated programs like that. Or maybe it was one here and one there. There was some. But the second major push of integration on a wholesale kind of a thing that happened after what Howard Schnellenberger was doing at Miami. So think about your favorite team. Think about, if you're a Miami Hurricanes fan, duh, you know what he did. But if you're someone else from somewhere else, like me, I'm from somewhere else. I remember the University of Michigan. You know what I mean? Look at Notre Dame even. That's a team that looks very different than it did, and that kind of a thing, changing the mindset and how and where people go and recruit, where they pull this talent from, what the talent looks like. And I'm talking about on a skin color basis, all these kind of things. If that impact and change or driving that change forward, even if it was tacitly, even if he was not necessarily the biggest, proponent for blackness and things like that. But hey, what he did then trickled down and other people do those same things. And that gives these people opportunities. That in and of itself is a change maker, and a change maker of that sort, I believe, should be in the College Football Hall of Fame, even if, again, the win-loss record, because he took tough situations, which were tough for a while, and turned them into great situations, left him a couple wins short of the arbitrary line that you drew when you made the College Football Hall of Fame to keep someone like that out.
What you just explained is so much more meaningful. And like you say, we don't know what his motivation and incentive was. It could have been just strictly, I want to build a football winner and this is how we're going to have to do it. Or there could have been, humanitarian and civil concerns, and it could have been the condition of his heart as well. We don't know. I don't know.
Right.
And just statistically, again, putting into context, when you build programs, your record overall is not going to be as good. And he did that 3 times. Even at Louisville, they hadn't had a winning season for 9 years, and he got there, and it took him a couple of years, and then he's going 10-1 and winning Fiesta Bowls, and in FAU starting a program. Your record's going to suffer from taking on reclamation projects.
Look, I'll put it to you like this. That year of 2000, I worked Parks and Rec here in Fort Lauderdale that summer, or 99, before the first year, because they had workouts for a year before they hit the field. I worked Parks and Recreation with a kid who started on that first FAU team at cornerback, like as a camp counselor type thing. I was a decent little athlete. I could run, I could jump and everything. But if I'm on the peer level athleticism with a starting college football player, that does not bode well for your college football team. And I'm sure that it did not in their opening season. But that's the kind of thing. You went from that to where FAU has been and currently is. It started because of Howard Schnellenberger. And again, we wish him his memory well, rest in peace and everything. But I hope that even posthumously he gets the due that he deserves.
Well said, Cam. Thank you so much. I knew that you would be the right person to put a bow on the show and pay him his due respect. All right, sir. Thank you so much. As always, we will hopefully get together next week.
Yeah, man, I should be around. So again, the website's always open 24/7, 365 at stateoftheu.com, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at The State of the U. My personal account is at Underwood Sports. I'm going to eat some dinner and tweet some reality TV. So come and check it out.
All right, folks, we will produce content, as you well know, throughout the night. Tomorrow, check it out. We'll be here producing college football content. I couldn't even tell you what's on tap for tomorrow in regards to our video releases. I am recording Oklahoma and Michigan tomorrow, not necessarily to be released, but check out all the college football content. We appreciate your contributions, Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App as well. Thank you so much for all the super chats tonight. And again, the voice of college football is only possible because of you. Thank you for all that you do, and we will see you soon.